Coming up tonight on the news at 6. Lawmakers in the Montana Senate advance a bill to limit business liability related to COVID-19. Plus,
Montana voters approved usage of recreational marijuana, but there's one segment of the population that's not barking about the new initiative. I'm Tim McGonigal with that story coming up.
From Montana's news leader, this is MTN News at 6.
good evening. Welcome to the news at 6. I'm Marian Davidson. Thanks for joining us. Montana lawmakers held a first hearing today on two bills to create new restrictions around transgender youth. Both bills are sponsored by Representative John Fuller, a Republican from Kalispell. HB 112 would require athletes at public schools and colleges to compete based on their biological sex, so transgender women and girls could not participate in sports and teams designated for female athletes. Supporters of the bill say those athletes have an advantage even after starting hormone therapy, and HB 112 creates a more level playing field. HB 113 aims to prohibit medical providers from giving gender confirmation treatments to people under the age of 18. Supporters of HB 113 say minors are not ready to decide on procedures that could have long-lasting impacts on their lives. Opponents of the bill say treatments are based on medical best practices and the state should not block them.
It protects children, and only children, from consequences that they do not know about, and they should not be allowed to undergo until they are an adult and free to make free will choices.
HB 113 would force courageous kids like my son who are living in pain and dysphoria to wait and suffer longer because they can't get the help they need. Making necessary medical care that trans kids rely on illegal does not protect them.
The committee did not take any immediate action on either bill today. And today, the Montana Senate approved one of Republican Governor Greg Gianforte's top priority bills, a measure giving businesses and others liability protection against COVID-19 related lawsuits. The bill is now headed to the Montana House, where it is expected to get quick approval. Senate Bill 65 says anyone trying to collect damages related to COVID-19 transmission must prove a business engaged in gross negligence, which is a higher than usual standard. It also extends this standard to healthcare providers treating COVID-19 and those who manufacture products to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. Gianforte says the bill encourages businesses to enforce public health standards to gain liability protection, and therefore he would lift mandates for face masks. But the bill in its current form says not following these guidelines, including face masks, cannot be used as a cause of action against the business. The Senate even suspended its rules today to advance the bill a day early, passing it 37-13. Republican Senator Jason Ellsworth of Hamilton said businesses harmed by the pandemic need this protection. And taking a look at the state's COVID-19 situation, around 250 new COVID-19 cases were reported in Montana today, bringing the number of active cases to just over 4,700. 3 more deaths have been reported since last night, and that brings the statewide death total to 1,113. Active hospitalizations sit at just over 170. Now, MTN uses a combination of state and local data to provide you with the most up-to-date numbers regarding COVID-19 in our state. And because of that, our numbers may differ from the state report. All right, now it's time for First Weather with Chief Meteorologist Curtis Grevenitz. Good evening, Curtis.
Well, good evening, Mary. Good evening, everybody. We had a little snow over the course of the weekend in some areas, like Monarch here, and this person probably coming right behind me, coming from Showdown, where they had over 24 inches of snow in about 24 hours. Yeah, so that's more than just a little snow, but other areas saw a little coating up to an inch or two. Winter storm warning for the Little Belts. This does not include Great Falls proper, really for the higher elevations of southern Cascade County, including the high woods out there, all the way down through the higher elevations again of Marr County. And a winter weather advisory continues here for Judith Basin County and Fergus County. Lewistown getting a little snow over the course of the last day or so. Now that system is winding down. Still some snow. We'll take a closer look at that in the full forecast. But what's next? Well, strong winds. Maybe not as bad, certainly not as bad as last week. However, going to have some pretty good wind coming through over the next day or so. The little belts, but a big snow, and the big snowies there just south of Lewistown picked up over a foot of snow as well. That's why they call them the big snowies. Windy waves will be upon us for tomorrow at least, and kind of cold. Maybe not Arctic air, but it will be colder than it's been in a while. I'll have more on the full forecast coming up.
All right, thanks for that, Curtis. Well, on this Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, we have more of Butte's rich history to share. Now, Butte does not have a large African-American population today, but at one time, there was a community rich with social clubs, churches, and even a Black-owned newspaper. MTN's John Amy visited the local archives.
Butte's African-American population is under 200 people these days, but at the turn of the century, it hosted a much larger population.
Historically, earlier on, we had early neighborhoods that were kind of exclusive to individuals of color throughout our history.
At the time, there were 2 prominently Black churches, social clubs, and even a newspaper.
Butte was the home of Montana's first full Black-owned newspaper. Individuals of color, it was called the Butte New Age. Barb's John Duncan and another guy by the name of Chris Dorsey.
This humble little church at Idaho and Platinum Street in Uptown Butte was built in 1901 as an AME church and was frequented by many of Butte's African-American community at the turn of the century.
They hosted Masonic lodges, women's clubs, literary socials, community dinners, for all people, but African Americans. There was a place called the Pearl Club.
All right, that was John Amy reporting. And still ahead on the news at 6, marijuana legalization here in Montana could have some unintended consequences for your pet. What you need to know after the break.
Montana's news leader. You're watching MTN News at 6.
Welcome back to the news at 6. On January 1st, recreational marijuana became legal here in Montana with some restrictions. But not every segment of the population is barking the praises of the new law. MTN's Tim McGonigal reports.
In people, it seems like it's a relaxing, recreational drug. But in pets, it seems to have a lot of odd effects.
Dr. Mike Norton is talking about marijuana toxicity in animals, a problem his practice is seeing with alarming frequency.
Right now, we're seeing kind of an epidemic of it since like Christmas. I mean, usually I'd see 3 or 4 a year. I've seen now 3 or 4 a week.
Norton says that's the trend in states that legalize marijuana, like Montana did on January 1st. Most affected dogs ingest the drug in edible form, but curious animals might eat discarded joints.
Yeah, if the dog is not showing signs and the owners know that the dog ingested it and they bring it in, we can make them we can give them a drug called apomorphine and make them throw it up within the first hour.
But the THC in marijuana can inhibit vomiting, and the longer it remains in the system, the more affected a dog becomes, eventually becoming almost comatose.
I mean, most dogs show up here, they can't walk, and they're cold, 90 degrees. Normal temperature for a dog is 101.5. So if you were not caring for your animal and just left it out in the cold, or you didn't know what was going on, that dog would probably get hypothermia and die before you would even know anything happened.
If these dogs are brought in, they'll be warmed up, given IV fluids, drugs for nausea, and supportive care. They're usually back home in 24 to 36 hours. Some dogs who ingest the drug will become agitated, and even the slightest noises can send them to a near seizure.
They tend to take 3 to 4 days in a dark room with earplugs in, and then Valium as needed to stop them from being so agitated.
In Great Falls, Tim McGonigal, MTN News.
And along with the physical toll it can take on pets, there's also a financial impact. Dr. Norton says a 2-night stay to treat marijuana toxicity can cost owners up to $1,200. Right now, with another look at the weather, here's Chief Meteorologist Curtis Grevnitz.
All right, Arctic air, where is it? Well, it's up around the Arctic, of course, but will it come down south here? Looks like towards later this week, a little burst of some Arctic air coming through south central Canada. We're into Thursday right there. All right, the temperatures do get colder towards late this week and this weekend, but the real Arctic stuff remains up off towards the north. I'll let you know just how cold those temperatures will be. Plus, when it was 70 below zero. That's coming up in this week's WeatherWise.
Now with Chief Meteorologist Curtis Grevenens.
Welcome back. Montana is king when it comes to temperature records. We've got the all-time temperature range from a high of 117 degrees at Glendive and Medicine Lake to a low of 70 below zero at Rogers Pass. That's a 187-degree difference and is the highest range of any of the 50 states. We've got the greatest 24-hour temperature change of 103 degrees in Loma, which is a world record. The greatest change in 12 hours of 84 degrees set in Fairfield, and a 47-degree swing in only 7 minutes in Great Falls. In this week's WeatherWise, the most dubious temperature record just might be from Rogers Pass, where the temperature hit 70 below and maybe even a little colder. 70 below zero at Rogers Pass on January 20th, 1954. A record that is an extreme, occurring in an extreme location under extreme meteorological conditions. Snow had been falling almost continuously for a week, and the temperature had only risen to 18 below zero for a high. Late in the day, the snow and wind stopped, skies cleared, and as the sun set, the temperature plummeted. Early the next morning, the Montana and continental 48 states record cold temperature was observed at a mining camp near the Continental Divide. The reading was made by one of the National Weather Service's cooperative observers. The station was located at a high elevation in a saucer-shaped depression. During the previous week, there were several fresh invasions of very cold Arctic air into Montana. 7 days of almost continuous snow increased the depth from 8 inches to 66 inches. The night was crystal clear with no wind, ideal conditions for strong cooling. That same night, a low of 31 below occurred in Butte, 43 below in Havre, minus 34 degrees in Billings, 37 below in Great Falls, and 36 below in Helena. Most ranger stations at that time had thermometers that only went down to minus 65 degrees. On that night, it was at least 70 below zero, and very well may have gotten colder, but the thermometer was unable to record it. The minus 70 reading was at 2 in the morning, and normally the night's minimum temperature occurs shortly after sunrise. The person manning the station that night reported being awake most of the overnight because of loud and frequent popping noises made in the cabin. At 2 a.m., he got out of bed and braved the cold to make the historic observation of 70 below. And understandably, he stayed in a warm bed the rest of the night. And now you're a little more WeatherWise. All right, so it could be a lot colder this time of year here, and we do have some colder temperatures, and hey, it finally looked like January out there for parts of the state here. You can see around the Lewistown area, the big snowies saw a big amount of snowfall. This is a look into Geyser. The road's looking clean, but the highwoods are still obscured. In Great Falls, 32 degrees right now. Feels like 25. The wind is fairly light right now. The wind will be picking up for Cascade County, the Rocky Mountain front, and a lot of north central Montana here through tonight and tomorrow. Helena, 33 degrees, a little blustery. Some snow on the east side of the Helena Valley, and then also some snow up on the Continental Divide here from last night into this morning. Temperatures, yeah, not cold. Nowhere even near zero here. We're looking at temperatures into the 20s and the 30s. And again, the wind, a little blustery out in eastern Montana, but it's not as bad as last week and not as bad as it will be for tomorrow. So a little lightening up of the wind here tonight, but look at this tomorrow morning right off of the Rocky Mountain front around the East Glacier area. Some strong winds developing. And by the time we get into tomorrow afternoon, yeah, those familiar areas, the usual suspects off the Rocky Mountain front, Judith Basin County, Choteau County, Cascade County, looking at some pretty strong winds. Remember, the purples here indicating where wind speeds could be up over 50 miles per hour. Wednesday, all right, not the windiest day we've seen, certainly not like last Wednesday, but it will be an extremely windy day for pretty much the entire state. Now, snow, still a few areas of some snow, especially right near the Big Snowies and then also the Little Belt Mountains Showdown. Of course, were closed on Wednesday afternoon, Thursday, and Friday because of power outages because of the windstorm last week. But they got what they deserved, about 2 feet of snow. Some snow coming down today at times around Great Divide, up on the Continental Divide. And there's some snow up over Rogers Pass right now into western parts of Lewis and Clark County, and a little snow coming right down the Rocky Mountain front there just west of Choteau. A little light snow moving through the Great Lakes in the northeast right now as well. So let's look long range here. Tonight's little system putting down a couple more hours of some snow, mainly into the mountains. It's gone by tomorrow morning. Mostly sunny starts, increasing clouds through the day. We'll have another front coming through Tuesday night into Wednesday, but that will be a dry front here. Not much, if any, snow Tuesday night into Wednesday with that front. Now getting into Friday, Thursday night and Friday, we may have a little snow down into southern Montana here, but really we're seeing a split pattern with things going right around Montana all the way into early next week. Maybe around Tuesday, Wednesday, with some Arctic air finally coming close to the state, we may get some snow. But there's the snowfall forecast. Not much through Wednesday, a little bit here Thursday and Friday for southern Montana. I think that's a bit bullish, that computer model right there. Don't expect that much, but may have to wait until Monday and Tuesday of next week to see some accumulating snow. Tonight, teens and 20s, and again, a little windy out the High Line. It's windy around Glasgow right now. Teens for Lewistown, very cold, still some snow around the Little Belt Mountains, and a few flakes of snow around the Helena area here for the next couple of hours. For tomorrow, some melting snow, maybe some drifting snow in the wind as well, 30s and 40s for a lot of the state. There goes that front. It's already down into northern Wyoming by Wednesday afternoon. It will be a blustery day on Wednesday, a little cooler. Into Thursday, all right, temperatures in the 20s and the 30s. We may get a little snow on Thursday night into Friday across the southern part of the state. Temperatures cooling down a bit more into the 20s for highs. Here is the 7-day forecast for Helena. So no snow over the next few days. We may get a little light snow on Friday. The weekend, not too shabby right now. Looking on the sunnier side, also crisp, highs in the 20s and 30s. Next Monday, Tuesday, watching the possibility of a more accumulation as far as snow goes. In Great Falls, a windy day tomorrow, windy on Wednesday, a little cooler as we head through the weekend, and watching snow a week from today.
Thanks, Curtis. Coming up, an in-person competition with students from multiple school districts, what Great Falls Public Schools did to keep them safe.
News Leader. You're watching MTN News at 6.
Welcome back to the News at 6. Great Falls Public Schools is making sure students in the Business Professionals of America competition have a good experience even during a pandemic. MTN's Coulter Anstad has the story.
Students from multiple school districts were at CMR High School in Great Falls Monday for the Regional Business Professionals of America competition. But walking through the halls, students were few and far between. That's because there were only around 100 instead of the usual 300 or so. Because of the pandemic, only students in judged events got to come to the high school.
I'm so grateful that we get to have some of the in-face aspect of it. It makes it so much easier to connect with the judges.
To entice people on what these attractions have to offer. We are social distancing, we are wearing masks, and we're being safe about it.
I'd say being in person is much easier and much more comfortable.
I like it in person, it's so much easier. You get to communicate with other people. I really enjoy having it in person because it helps me meet new people that can help me better myself in our event.
Organizers considered having a virtual event, but decided having the event in person was important for the students, so they worked with the local health department to come up with a plan.
With the judged events, it's so much easier face-to-face to give them that experience.
As I previously mentioned, there's this...
In Great Falls, Coulter Anstad, MTN News.
All right, we'll wrap things up here on the News at 6 when we come back.
News Leader. You're watching MTN News at 6.
Welcome back to the News at 6. Astronomers announced a super discovery outside of our solar system. They found this super Earth orbiting one of the oldest stars in our Milky Way galaxy. Now it's called an exoplanet because it is outside of our solar system. And this planet is about 50% bigger than Earth and has 3 times the mass, which is why astronomers are calling it super Earth. Astronomers say it is also super hot with an average temperature of 3,140 degrees Fahrenheit. Yuck. And that does it for the news at 6. We'll see you back here tonight at 10 with your latest local news and another look at the weather. We'll see you then.